But let's put it about 50 million sperms per any teaspoon of ejaculate that we have.
Okay.
And that is a good sperm count. Some have more, some have less. But one thing about the strength of the sperm is that in childbirth, you need only one sperm to make a baby. So it is a matter of probability.
Sure.
So you may have somebody who has got 100 million sperms and is struggling to have a baby. And you have somebody who has just got maybe 5 million or even 1 million and is having a child because of the probability game. So I would say that if he has not had any major surgeries, if he's not on any medications that doctors have said may affect ability to have sperms, if he gets erections in the mornings, dawn, then I don't think there's any cause for alarm. Because if we decide, for instance, to do the semen analysis and we get, let's say, 3 million, that doesn't mean that you cannot have the number of children that you have, because it's a probability game. So we say that you should take it easy. We know the parameters to look for if there should be a challenge. You should boldly go through it, pray along, and if there are any challenges, we'll come in. But if you decide to do the sperm test first, then psychologically, we run into difficulty. So I've done a sperm test and they say it is 1 million. And so then we keep moving from one place to another and it affects everything else. So that's what I would say. Of course, if you do the sperm test and there are no sperms at all, then that's a different ball game. But I would advise that you should boldly go into it. I don't think there will be any issues.
Yeah, okay. I mean, you mentioned a very interesting point that somebody may have 10 million sperms and somebody can have one. And sometimes the one will be lucky and have a child, and one with 10 million. What accounts for the variances or the differences in sperm count in men?
Okay, so we will start by saying that for us, a lot of things run through about 5 areas. The first one is that, have you had any abnormalities at childbirth? For instance, by the time you were delivered at 9 months or by 1 year, we expect the testes to have dropped into the scrotum.
Right.
If the testes drops into the scrotum, it's a cool area and sperms develop very well. So if there's a delay in the testes dropping in the scrotum, or that 1 or 2 of the testes stay in the abdomen, then that can put you at a disadvantage.
Okay.
And we call that a congenital problem, something you were born with. We can also have something that is due to probably infections. So you get an infection involving the testes. We will use the word orchitis or epidermolysis. That can affect the sperms. So you get it from sexually transmitted infection or something like that. That can affect it. Sometimes it's an injury. You are playing hockey, you are playing a football game, and you are kicked on the testes. Sometimes it's injured, it fractures, and the testis is destroyed completely. Other times, the testis is torn in a way, and the sperms get exposed to our bloodstream. Normally, the testes are excluded from our blood system.
Right.
So our what we call antibodies, so things that try to fight the body, cannot recognize your sperms. But if there's a rent in the testis becomes exposed to the blood, then the blood will develop what's called antibodies against its own sperms. So they start detonating the sperms before they even come out of the testis. And that can be an injury. So an injury or trauma can be a reason for that.
Okay. Now, go ahead.
Good. There are medications that we give, some medications are deliberately given to suppress our testosterone level, and that can be a reason. Some people use exogenous steroids to help them, build their muscles, in one spot or the other. The downside of these steroids is that they shut down the testes, and so the person is, very macho, but the testes is all shut down because these hormones had virtually caused the testes to go to sleep. And of course, some of the treatment that we give, we talk about radiation and other treatments that we have. So these are the things that can cause it. On occasions, sometimes because there's a cancer in the testes, and that can also cause the function to go on.
Doc, another question that has often been asked, and usually comes in from men, is the whole question of my testes, that they are one is bigger than the other. Is that a health issue, or is it normal? Because some attribute that to the challenges they may have in having children.
Yeah. So we'll say that most of the things that are paired in the body, somehow they don't tend to be the same size. They are different sizes.
Right.
So for the testes, for us to say that this testis is small, probably too small, such that it may affect fertility, we look at the length of it, the longer side, it should be more than 2.5 centimeters.
Okay.
If the length is more than 2.5 centimeters, they won't say that it's small enough to affect ability to have children.
Right.
But if it's less than 2.5 centimeters, they will say that the volume is a bit too small.
Right.
Because the whole volume of the testes is to make sperms.
Right.
So any reduction in size is a loss of sperms. But anything
Okay.
above 2.5,
Happy days.
we are okay. However, we may want to know if there's pain, because sometimes you can have some veins within the testes that is causing a bit of warmth, a bit of distraction, and so the testes gets smaller. Then we need to deal with it. If, for instance, one is getting too big, it could be because a hernia has dropped from the abdomen into it. It could be because some water has collected around it, what you call a hydrocele, or sometimes even the testis itself is developing a cancer. And so when there's disparity and you are not comfortable, it's too heavy, you have occasion to sit on it. You say that a man is not designed to sit on his testis.
Sure.
If you sit on a testis, then there's something quite wrong with the testis.
Yeah.
Or, as I said, there's some pain or some discomfort, then maybe something's going wrong and you need a doctor to have a look at it.
Okay, Doc. Another question. As you know, sometimes we are advised to go and have regular health checks. Sometimes it's basically a blood sample to check for a number of things. As far as the whole subject of urology is concerned, or infertility or sperm production is concerned, do men have to have some sort of a regular test to make sure that their testes are functioning the way they should?
Yeah.
Or do we only get to do something when there's a problem?
So let's look at the testes, then we look at the other areas in urology. For the testes, one of the important things we can do is self-examination. So anytime there's public awareness,
Right.
women should examine their breasts.
Sure.
Yes, men, we may touch our little breasts that we have, but probably we should be reaching out to our testes. I must admit that testicular cancer, which is probably what will not give you a pain and will just give you a swelling, is not very common in the environment at all. Other places quite common. So once you enter the middle school or the high school, they will teach you how to examine your testes to look for it.
Right.
So testicular self-examination can be something that you can do.
Yeah, but okay. I mean, that's great information. But once you decide to examine, what are the signs? What do you need to be able to say, hang on, doc, I have a problem?
Okay. So first is the disparity in size,
Okay.
which has come up. If it's too much disparity, then that is an issue.
And that's the 2.5.
The 2.5 is the minimum for sperm production.
Okay.
But in between the two of them, there's a disparity. Some can be as huge.
When you say disparity, to what extent?
I would say that probably if it strikes you, because depending on the pathology, I mean, people have had to carry their scrotums in the wheelbarrow.
Sure.
That's how huge it could be,
Ouch.
So once you're not happy with the disparity, let us know, because it varies in the size.
Okay.
If a hernia has dropped into it, it can be very big.
Okay.
So I'll say if there's a disparity, probably I'll say that. I may not give a dimension,
Sure.
but I'll say if there's a disparity.
Disparity. Okay.
If
So-
you touch it and it's tender, or we call the word, general people will say it's painful,
yeah,
then that's a concern.
that's a concern. Okay.
If you touch it and you can see something like bead in it, beads in it, it's not smooth. It's bumps and furrows and things in it.
Yeah.
Then you should be concerned about it. It's supposed to be firm to soft. If it's
Okay.
hard, like sweet bat, I mean something very hard, like a palm kernel, then you should be concerned about it.
Right.
So this is the things that we look for: the size, the way it feels, pain, and it probably means it's too warm.
Right.
It's something you can be able to tell.
Okay, Doc, I have another question coming in from a listener, and it says, good morning, I'm 50 and I have a weak erection, and because of that, I'm unable to be in any relationship with a lady because I don't want to be a disgrace in bed. It started long ago. How can I be helped?
For us, we need more story, what we call a history, to understand it more.
Okay.
For instance, giving to alcohol, smoking. So lifestyle, we want to know. Exercise has been found to be very useful to keep the erections going, because it's blood that must flow through the penis. So when you exercise, you move up and down, then you keep your circulation working hard, your heart is working hard, blood will also flow into the penis very hard.
Right.
Exercise is also a way of making the hormone testosterone, which drives us men, to be very, very sharp. So if you exercise, testosterone, no matter how the levels you have, works exceedingly perfectly.
Are you, Doc, say that again. Are you saying that the more we exercise, the better our levels of testosterone?
Yes, the better the levels and the better its
Quality.
and action. Because you stream up, you are active. The little fats we accumulate has a way of breaking down the testosterone to other things like estrogens, and therefore you have testes produce the testosterone, but by the time it gets to where it needs it, the body has broken it all down to other things. So exercise is very, very useful to it. So our lifestyle is the first thing.
Right.
We want to know, are you on any medications? Diabetes treatment, hypertensive treatment, other medications. That could be something you want to have. Once we eliminate those things, then we may want to examine you. What's the blood pressure like? What are the other things?
Sure.
The penis itself, is it feeling good? Sometimes you may have some plaques in it. That can be the reason for the erectile problem. And so we examine you to look at that. Then we run some lab tests. Testosterone level, other hormones we can run to make sure that everything is going fine in it. If you don't find anything wrong, or if you are not able to get something that we can correct by these interventions, then there are medications we can give. Some you may take it daily, some you may have to take it maybe once a week, once a month, and that will solve it. So depending on the extent of the problem, that can be dealt with. But you may need to talk to him. But lifestyle, probably before you even see a doctor, let him improve upon his exercise level. And you realize that probably he does not need it at all.
Okay. Well, I have another question that has just come in, and it says, I'm currently experiencing severe pain in my right testicles. I've been to Rich Hospital and run several tests, but the doctor tells me I'm okay. I'm also experiencing sciatica pain in my right leg. Can it be the cause of the pain in my right testicles?
Yeah. So pain is a sensation, and it's carried by the nerves. Good. And so if you are feeling pain, you ask yourself what is happening in the testis itself. So we'll examine you, ask questions, we do a scan, which can pick some of the things that can be a reason for the pain. So having been seen in the hospital, I mean a great hospital like Rich, I agree that all these things may have been done and they are not finding it at all. So then we ask yourself, is it a referred pain? In other words, there's something in the testis, but it's pain from other places. One of the common things is a stone in the kidney or the ureters. If there's a stone in the kidney, that can cause a referred pain to the testis.
Interesting.
So while you're holding your testis, yet the origin is somewhere
else.
in the spine, somewhere. And so that is one thing that we need to explore.
Okay.
And then the nerves that supply the testis are coming from the spine. If there's any pressure on them and they start being tickled, they may give a bit of a pain, a sensation which appears to be coming from the testis. So that is also of a consideration. But there's no harm having a second opinion with all the things that he has done for another doctor to have a look at it and then probably advise.
Okay.
Sometimes we get the pain because the testis twists on itself and untwists. So when the pain comes, you realize the testis has banged on itself, is slightly raised, what we call torsion, detorsion. Then in that case, what we need is that we may do surgery on the testis and fix it to prevent it from dangling around like the inside of the bell clapper.
You sure?
And that will solve the pain.
Right.
So a second opinion can be very helpful.
It's always important.
It can be helpful.
I have another question, and it says, do men get urinary tract infections and yeast infections? I think the answer is obvious that UTI
yes, so
happen.
the age is important. I mean, for young people less than 12 years, normally it is lifestyle, bathing and not bathing and all those things, not washing your underwear. So they get infections, but from lifestyle. So once you help them improve their hygiene, they are okay. Those in reproductive areas, sexually active, tends to be sexually transmitted infections.
Right.
And so that also can be there.
Right.
Then when you move to the older age group, 50 and above, then it's due to the bladder not emptying very well.
Right.
And so the urine stays in the bladder 2 or 3 days, you are not emptying it too well, and then infection steps in. Then that time we are looking at the prostate and its problems.
Right.
So men get infections, but it depends on the age.
Sure.
Are you less than 12 years, likely personal hygiene, or something congenital, which you may look for it. Are you in the reproductive sexual age group, then you might watch your sexual practices.
Okay.
That may be the issue. Are you above 40, 50 years, you may want to check on your prostate to see whether it is not impeding the urine flow and causing you to keep more urine than you are keeping. So it depends on the age and probably causes. But men get infections.
Right.
But
Okay.
the cause varies.
Well, if you've just tuned in to Joy 99.7, this is Home Affairs, and we're having a discussion on the subject of urology and its related services as far as our health is concerned. And in the studio with me is Professor Yamoah Kyei, who is a urologist at Kolebu Teaching Hospital. You can send in your questions through our WhatsApp number 055 111 That's 055 111 Or if you want to call into the show, the number is 0302 216 541. I have another question in here from Kwabena, and he says, "Good morning, Doc. Can I know whether the best way out for a patient who has one of his kidneys enlarged with loss of normal renal urine, normal renal outline, urine in his blood, loss of weight, general weakness, as well as a lack of regular erection at the age of 49. Is it advisable to have the enlarged kidney removed, especially when the other kidney and liver is in good condition? The patient is also diabetic."
Yes. So he gives a few, out a few complaints that causes worried. One is that there's blood in the urine. If there's blood in the urine, it's a concern for us, especially at his age. If he has not lived around areas that got behavior and things, then it's a concern for us. And the kidney is enlarged. One of the commonest causes of enlargement of the kidneys with blood in the urine is a cancer of the kidney, what we call malignant tumor of the kidney. And if that is the case, then surgery is actually the preferred method, because that type of growth or cancer in the kidney, it does not respond effectively to the chemotherapy we know, or the injections and the tablets for cancer treatment, and does also not respond to the radiotherapy which we also use to treat cancer. So the treatment is surgery. So if the diagnosis is a renal tumor, then I'm afraid that it may need to be removed. Of course, sometimes we don't have to remove the whole kidney. If it's a very small tumor, we can go and remove just where the cancer is and leave the kidney behind. So we need to assess the size of the tumor and deal with it. If it is just a blockage to the urine flow, and we have ways of ascertaining whether the kidney is strong or its contribution to what you call your kidney work. If the contribution of that kidney to your total kidney work is more than 10%, then we may have to go and repair it. So we go there, find out what is causing the bleeding and blocking the urine flow and making the kidney dam the urine water, and repair it and save the kidney so that the kidney can add on to your already good kidney. Because you may end up developing a cancer, hypertension later on, and that kidney may have issues. So whatever kidney is left, if you can leave a little bit to add on to what is good for us. But if we do that functional assessment on the kidney, what we call differential renal function, and the contribution of that kidney to your overall kidney function is less than 10%, then that kidney is just going to cause problems for you and damn useless and all the troubles. Then we have to remove the kidney. So remove the kidney because there's a cancer in it,
right,
and remove it because it's damn useless. It is not contributing much to your renal function, and it's all pain and blood and weight loss and erectile dysfunction. Once there is a problem with the kidney, the erections will show. I mean, it's one of the, like an antenna telling you that there's something wrong. So a man above 40 years with erectile dysfunction, the erectile dysfunction is just an antenna telling you that something is not right with you.
Okay.
So it needs to be dealt with.
Okay, thanks for that. Yeah. I have another question which says, can you elaborate on vasectomy as an option for family planning? Would you rather recommend it rather than letting my wife tie her womb?
Okay, so vasectomy is a way of preventing the sperms from getting out of your system into the woman.
Sure.
It's a permanent procedure. And what we do is that it's just a little bit of a pinhole, something a little small, and we can just tie the tube and cut a little bit of it off. It's very, very effective.
Is it reversible?
We will say that it's not reversible.
Okay.
However, if you have pushed the wall, we make attempt to reverse it, and sometimes we are successful. But if you do a vasectomy and after 5 years, there has not been any occasion to reverse it, after 5 years, even when you go and reverse it, it may not work at all.
Okay.
But so far as our contraceptive methods are concerned, we consider it permanent, because when you reverse it, you may even have sperms in it, but yet pregnancy may be low. It's a good option to take. There are so many reasons why a woman may not be going on hormonal contraceptives. For instance, if there's a family history of a breast cancer, sometimes we don't recommend that they go on it. Sometimes there are challenges with the woman for other reasons. Some of them will go for other things and they're getting infections, and so they may want to take it. So I think it's a good idea. We, however, say that because of the slight risk that it may pose on people, odds so far as prostate cancer is concerned, we say that if you want to do it, probably in your late 30s and your 40s is good, and normally it doesn't cause any much trouble to you at all. So not too early. Should be late 30s and 40s, and you are good to go. And it's very, very effective and it's safe.
Right. Prof, as general, so sort of a general question. It's not a question that someone has sent in. With regards to men's reproductive health, which is what we are talking about.
Yeah.
Apart from some of the specific issues that you've already talked about, things like blockages, cancers, and all that, what are some of the things that men should do in terms of ensuring good reproductive health?
Probably I will say that what men should not do.
Okay.
Because men are built to be productive.
Okay.
And so the system is well connected and wired for that purpose.
Right.
What shouldn't we do? The number one thing, I'll say that, please avoid what you call the steroids, the muscle building things.
Right.
What you call the androgens, the
Androgens.
synthetic androgens.
Yeah.
Please avoid them, because what happens is that when you take them, they block the body's own mechanism of producing the testosterone. And it is that testosterone that is able to permeate into the testes and cause it to function well. If you take these exogenous steroids, it stays in the blood, it goes into the muscles, but it's not able to permeate into the testes. So it takes over everything else, the testes shuts down, and the sperms go down. So that's one thing.
Right.
The second dangerous thing is marijuana. In its forms, whether it's smoking or tea or whatever you want to call it, has been found to be very, 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 spermatocytic or suicidal. It kills sperms.
Wow.
And so, if you get close to marijuana, that can be challenging. And I've got a few men who are struggling with childbirth, and the only thing I can tell is that, I used a bit of marijuana when I was in school or something, I don't use it anymore. And yet, the testis has been shut down completely. Then you can come to smoking and alcohol, which are, moderate, but still has effect on them.
Right.
So these are the things that probably I will say. A few times, some of the antihypertensive medications can affect the sperm motility, the ability for it to move. And we can vary it if it becomes an issue and give you something which does not affect the motility. So this is what I will say. Exercise can also be useful. And of course, eat well. The sperms are proteins. So if you are not eating well, your diet is not good, then it can affect it as well. So if you want to have children and there's a time to have children, then 3 times a day, balanced diet, good diet can be something. Once you finish your children, you can decide to do your diet and everything else. But if you want to have children, I'm afraid good protein, good exercise, good nutrition is needed. Otherwise, the body looks at the sperms as luxury. It will take all the nutrients for other things and not make the sperms. So it's a lifestyle, it's things you should avoid.
Right.
If you avoid these things, the system itself is well wired for that. And the last thing is heat in the lower area. So some people wear a brief, what we call the panties, they wear boxer shorts, they wear a normal short, and then they add a trousers to it. I mean, eventually cooking the whole place up, with the temperature.
Yeah.
Okay. So ideally, a brief and a trousers, or a boxer shorts and a trousers. Don't combine too many things.
Yeah,
Don't combine too many things. Otherwise, it's too warm in the area.
I've also heard the argument that if men, especially those who don't wear boxer shorts and wear the traditional underwear, it has been said that if it is too tight, and therefore it's sort of squeezing the testicles against the inner thigh, it's not good for sperm production because of the heat that could be generated. How true is that? Yeah,
so the issue is the heat. The issue is the heat. So pressing the testis or scrotum or the testis, well, we will not encourage pressure. But I must also say that sometimes we encourage that, especially those who have got what we call dilated veins or varicoses, where is the damming of blood in the testis that is causing the problem.
Okay.
And something that is tight enough to cause the blood to flow out of the testis may rather cool the place up rather than cause a heat.
Right.
So it depends on the circumstances and what is happening. We may be able to advise either way. Yeah.
Okay. I have a message in here from AC, and she says, "Good morning, Doc. Please, my son is 9 years old, and he has a very small penis and testicles. I'm told it's because he has weight. That is why this is happening.
Yes.
Could you please clarify?"
Yes, good. So as men develop, there are 2 levels. Before 3 years, the sperm, the testosterone level, which is the hormone that drives men, goes up. then comes down by 6-7 years, then start rising again. At puberty, they will get the good quantities that drives the whole system: the beard, the voice, a big penis, and all the things. Good. Now we explain that the little sperm that the boy is making between the 6 years to about 9 years, if the child is chubby, I use the word chubby, then it means that because he has got a lot of fat in his body, the fat cells or the fat tissue then breaks down his little testosterone which he has at that age group to make it into estrogen. So they don't get enough for them to drive what she wants to see. But the good thing is that once they get into puberty, 11, 12, 13 years, it catches up. So anytime parents have come with their children, we have asked them to wait till they are about 12, 13 years and see what the changes will be. Because once they start going to boarding house and going under stress of trying to write an exams, they trim up and realize that all of a sudden they catch up. So I agree that being chubby can be a reason at that age. But I also say that, especially for those who bring their children around 12, 13 years, I always tell them that before you bring your child, you must ask yourself, how does daddy look like? Because some of them tend to compare the child to their brothers, and leave daddy out. Yeah, it's good to look at how your brothers once look like. But please remember that it's also a reflection of daddy. And so we don't expect you to do anything much better than daddy does.
Sure.
And so we have to take all into consideration. And these are some of the questions that we engage in this issue.
Okay. Now, I have another question that's coming. It says, in the last 2 weeks, I've noticed with worry that my semen has turned a different color, almost yellowish. Should I be worried?
Yes. I mean, once you notice something that is not right, I think it's to worry. And it's a good observation. One of the ways of assessing the way our body works is watching out the fluid that comes. If you cough out blood, there's something wrong. If there's blood in your stool, there's something wrong. So if you see, watch out. If you are urinating, look at it. If there are changes, it can draw your attention to it. Because after all, that's what we collect to do the more finer labs on it. So if your sperms or semen has changed color, there's a cause. It can be an infection, a prostatitis or infection or gonorrhea that can give you a yellowish color.
Right.
Sometimes you also have infection in the prostate, which is not sexually transmitted, but yet it causes a bit of blood to be put into the sperms. So it may look brownish or even pure blood, what we call hematospermia, and that can be a reason why it has changed color. Sometimes you may have cancer of the prostate, or even sometimes cancers of the testes, which may cause the sperms to look the way it is looking. So I think that we may need to run some labs, and we don't only run, looking at fertility issues with the sperms. We're able to run what's called a culture with the sperms. We're able to do some other things on the sperms to find out what is happening. So we may run a sperm analysis and a culture of the sperms, and it may give us a much more idea. So let me approach a doctor. We'll talk to him, examine him, and if it's just an infection, probably a course of antibiotics should be able to resolve it. If it is much more than that, we may assess the testes, may assess the prostate, and that may help us understand.
Okay.
If you are pushed to the wall, we can take a camera, what we call cystoscopy, look through the penis and see whether there's something happening within the tube itself. So it can be assessed by a urologist completely.
Okay, Doc. Before I take the next question, with regards to the whole subject of men's reproductive health, looking at the experience that you have gained and the environment that you work in as a medical practitioner, how serious is the whole issue of men's reproductive health, for example, in relation to childbirth issues, prostate cancer, stones, kidney stones, stones in the urinary tract? How big of a problem is it, as far as Ghana is concerned?
Yeah, it is a big problem. It is a big problem. For instance, the last year we're looking at our data, and we are seeing about 12,000 men in Kolebu for various urological issues.
Wow!
So it is a big issue for the reproductive health. By most studies, about 50% of couples with difficulty having children has something to do with the man, and we are talking about 10 to 15% of married couples having challenges with childbirth. So out of these 10 to 15% of married couples having challenges with childbirth, about 7-8% of them is due to the man. So that can be high.
Wow.
Then for prostate disease, for us in Ghana, especially the African world and Ghana included, prostate cancer is the commonest male cancer of men above 40 years. So once you get out of the age of 40 years or beyond 40 years, prostate cancer becomes an issue and enlargement becomes an issue. Currently, 1 out of 5 African black men may develop prostate cancer in their lifetime. And about 1 in 4, 1 in 6 may develop an enlargement of the prostate BPH causing symptoms, especially as we get older. So it is a big issue. But the good news is that so far as the country is concerned, there's a lot of effort going in training a lot of urologists. I remember when I was in training, there were only 11 urologists, and including counting us who were in training together in the whole country.
Wow.
And sadly, we lost 3 of them, on a day, singing the through an accident. And so it dropped from 11 to about 8 or 7. But as I speak now, through training and concerted efforts from that time, we have about 77 urologists throughout the country and counting. And so we make a lot of progress. And as I speak now, even most of the training institutions where we have accredited that the people can train urologists are oversubscribed. So I'll say that we are making an effort. It's a big issue, but the country has made a lot of strides through effort by embassies who give scholarships to people for urology, the government, and also the Ghana Urological Association, which is the association of all urologists, a lot of effort. So it's a big issue on all fronts.
Right.
And as we get older, it's going to be much more big issue.
Right. I have another question that's coming from a listener and says, "Good morning. Please, I experience pain in my testes when I don't have sex for a long time. But when I do have sex, the pain disappears. Is this normal?"
Okay. So what we have, we will put it in the milder form as what we call the blue balls.
Okay.
So blue balls is commoner in the younger age group, 15, 16, 17, 14. At that age, a lot of testosterone is being produced, and so there's an engorgement if you make sperms and the whole tubular system is filled up. So it's like a damming.
Right.
It stretches the tubes, and then there's pain. In the younger age group, we normally have what's called bedwetting.
Sure.
Wet dreams. Or just a bedwetting, but rather use the word wet dreams. That's the way God in his own wisdom gets the system to empty, and so we get some relief. So if you are not ejaculating, I won't use the word having sex, but if you are not ejaculating, then the system can get engorged and it can be painful. One of the ways of going around it is to find how best you can stop overstimulating yourself. The kind of movies you watch, the kind of little clips you watch on your phones, the kind of books you watch, that can be a reason why probably it's giving you in that situation. Because if you reduce your stimulation, they may go a few more months even without ejaculation and still don't feel pain.
Right.
Probably he's overstimulating himself at that age.
Okay.
Otherwise, you should be able to get.
But how then do you reconcile what you've just said for people who decide, for example, that they're going to be abstinent from sex for a while? They're mature adults.
Yeah.
And maybe for 5-6 years, they've decided that, look, I'm waiting till I meet the right person.
Yeah.
Does that cause a problem?
No, it shouldn't cause a problem at all. So for such people, as I said, if they don't stimulate themselves, they may be able to go even 3, 4, 5 months, 6 months. So one wet dream in 6 months will be enough to get the whole system in a good shape.
Released.
So they don't need to at all.
Right.
But if you overstimulate yourself, then I'm afraid you may need 3 or 4 wet dreams in a week to get it.
Right.
So once you make that decision, you also consciously have to avoid things that overstimulate you.
Right, okay. Next question that's coming says, please, what is the effect of masturbation on the prostate? What are the effects of diabetic and hypertension medications on erectile function or dysfunction?
Okay. So far as masturbation concerns, I don't think we have any evidence to connect masturbation to a prostate disease. Probably the little link I may, from principle, is that we know that ejaculation can be protective for people developing prostate cancer in the long run. So probably,
Doc, say that again.
we will know that ejaculation can be helpful in protecting prostate cancer.
Okay.
Why is this so? So generally, if you have got sperms within the collecting systems, the seminal vesicles, the prostate area, the testis area, and you don't use them, the body breaks them after 3 months.
Right.
When the body is trying to break these sperms out, because they have a lot of energies in them, they produce what we call oxygen-free radicals, more like a radiation coat in this small sense, or laser, whatever you want to call it. And this, when it gets close to the prostate, can lead to promote cancer. I mean, let's say, I won't say it cause cancer, but the odds are higher for
Right.
people like that. So if you ejaculate, then we don't go through this process of getting the sperms, being resorbed or broken down, and so it may protect you. So in this sense, I'll say maybe masturbation can maybe prevent you from accumulating the sperms and therefore they being broken down within your system and rather coming out. That's probably the faintest connection I can have. But once it's come up, I mean, we are researchers. Once it's come up, we may take that on board and see whether there's a rare connection between the two. And I will take it up as a researcher and, a staff for the medical school, University of Ghana. We'll take it up. I don't have an answer. I don't think it's in our books, but
Sure.
we'll take it up. It's a good question. Hypertension and diabetes drugs, yes, they can affect erections. But they themselves, the hypertension and diabetes, are probably the commonest cause of the erectile problems, rather than the medication itself.
Wow.
So really, the medications are really rather to try and get your function back to normal. But we accept that some of the medications can be detrimental.
Okay.
Because maybe they are reducing the heart rate, maybe they are dilating the veins so that a lot more blood pools within the legs rather than stay in the penis to cause an erection.
Right.
Once we notice that, we can make changes. And by God's grace, there are a lot of medical medication we can juggle around. So please approach your doctor and talk to them. But if you stop taking the medications, the next time around is a stroke. The next time around is a diabetic and your leg could be cut or something. So please don't trade it off. Talk to your doctor about it. They will juggle things around. If it's beyond them, they'll get you to a urologist and we'll do the fine balancing for you.
Right. I have a question that's come in from Kobe, and he says, I am 59, hypertensive, and I've been experiencing a weak erection of late. During intercourse, I experienced these two issues. My discharge is very short, so I feel that I don't think he's written this well, but it's something to do. He feels that the quality and quantity of his sperm has reduced.
Okay.
What's going on?
Yeah. So 59 is a good old age. So far as the reproductive system is concerned, the best time in a man's life is between 20 years and 24 years. That's where everything is at its peak. As we get older...
Just that 4-year period?
Sure, that's where everything is at its peak.
Wow.
As we get older, things
start to slow
starting
down.
and cutting down. What keeps us going is the exercise. And I always give somebody who became a friend, he came with erectile dysfunction at 38 years old. And I said, you are too young for this issue.
Sure.
You should be going... After the discussion, he realized that he was not exercising. So what did he do? I asked, go and exercise. He didn't have he boarded a vehicle normally, but he tells me, look, I'm staying somewhere in the East Legon because you're in Accra. I get down at the Shashi or the mall area and walk to my place at Ajigano. So I get up around 6 p.m., 6:30, and by the time I get to it, was 7:38. And he said, please don't change my mind. Because after I started doing this work, I don't need any advice. I just came to tell you that things are fine.
Things are fine.
And this is what I'm doing. I just, is it safe to work? He said, I know where to pass. And that is it. So 59, please get on the road.
Right.
Exercise. You realize that probably everything will get back to normal. Of course, it's good to run a few lab tests. Your sugar level, your prostate test, just to make sure that, a few diseases are not cropping up.
Right.
But once those general lab tests have been done and they are fine, kidney, everything is fine, please just go to the email. Just do some exercise and realize that you don't need a doctor or urologist at all. But beyond exercise, if there's still an issue, we can take it up. But 59, you are getting old. Please exercise to get younger and probably, but run a lab test. Go for a general screening. Let's see where the situations are. You are good enough, old enough to have a general screening, so we pick a few things up if they exist.
Okay, thank you so much for that, Doc. We'll come back to Doc in just a minute. Let me just read some notices. Right. The joy of every parent is to see their children cheerful and hearty. To achieve this desire, every parent needs to ensure that their children are given nutritious foods that have essential nutrients and multivitamins which can promote their welfare. One of such nutritious beverages is Vitamilk soy milk drink. Vitamilk soy milk is made from natural soybeans, which is a good source for plant protein, vitamin B1 and B2. Vitamilk has no artificial coloring, no artificial flavorings, and no preservatives. For over 20 years in Ghana, Vitamilk has been consistent with its product quality, sumptuous taste, and its vital nutritional benefits. Choose Vitamilk Champ for your children. because it has plant proteins and it is nutritious, amazingly delicious, and satisfying. Vitamilk also comes in its regular soya milk drink, Vitamilk Energy, the multi-cereal with no caffeine, Vitamilk Choco, Vitamilk Banana, Strawberry, and Vitamilk 250ml and Vitamilk 1 liter Tetra Packs. Vitamilk is indeed a nutritious beverage that feels good anywhere, anytime. Now, are you ready for the dance party of a lifetime? The Rotary Club of Accra Airport and the Rotary Club of Accra Premier International, Joy 99.7 and Gold Coast Restaurant bring you Pop Chain 2024, a special dance party to raise funds for breast cancer awareness and screening. Come dance to the live music of the Lipstick Queens, the renowned All Ladies Band, as they give you a dance party like no other, while we raise funds for breast cancer awareness and screening to allow early detection in our communities. Pop Chain 2024 will take place next Saturday, the 16th of November at the Gold Coast Restaurant behind the police headquarters. Doors open at 6 p.m. and the party kicks off at 7 p.m. Tickets are selling at 200 Ghana cedis and are available at the front desk of Joy 99.7 FM and Gold Coast Restaurant. For your tickets, reservations, please call our WhatsApp number 0244 663 968. That's 0244 663 968. Go grab your ticket fast and come support this worthy cause initiative. And just remember, you can also send donations via our mobile money platform by dialing star 714 star 003 star 3 hash. I'll say that again, star 714 star 003 star 3 hash, and just follow the prompts. Pop Chain 2024 with the Lipstick Queens is here. See you there. Well, Doc, let's continue this interesting discussion. If you just joined us once again, welcome to Joy 99.7. We're discussing men's reproductive health. And in the studio with me is Professor Kyei, who is a urologist and is sharing his experience, advice with us this morning. Doc, I have a question from KK, and he says, I am 55 and have my penis turning to the left and it hurts when having intercourse. What could be the problem? Is it what could be the problem with the penis as far as shrinking is concerned, and how do I solve this?
Okay, so what he described, if he examines the penis carefully, he realizes that the side to which is bending towards, there will be some plaques there, firmness there. We call this Peyronie's disease, named after the doctor who first described it. So it is fibrosis and firmness in an area, preventing that and shrinking or contracting, and so it bends it. There are various levels of bend. Sometimes it's just a little bend, you can have sexual intercourse without any difficulty. But as the angulation gets more acute and more bending, then it becomes very painful. And a few times, you may even not be able to penetrate at all.
Right.
We are not too sure about the cause, but generally people think that little injuries at sex may have triggered this fibrosis and causing that. If it's a recent finding, less than 1 year, what we know is that when we put you on vitamin E, it can be very, very useful in correcting the problem. The pain gets better, and sometimes you may even have a complete resolution, or it becomes, I would say, stabilized, so that it does not get any more, curved. So that is the first. We want to know how long has been going on. If it's within 1 year, then vitamin E can be very, very useful. If it's more than 1 year, then we take a decision. If it's still penetrable and everything else, we may just leave you alone and keep an eye on you. But if you are having pain, like he's saying, or sometimes it's so acute, so bent that you cannot even penetrate, then the treatment is surgical.
Right.
Surgical to remove the band that is holding on, something like holding on like a bow. We need to free that bow for it to get it straight. When we do that, we may need to pick a few tissues from one place or the other to replace the part that has been, in quote, destroyed, that we have excised away. So from medication, normally vitamin E is a hinge, to surgery. and that can be done. And a urologist should be able to help out. We've done a few of these surgeries to correct, and people are very happy with it. So I think I wouldn't mind him getting in touch. We'll try and get it sorted.
Okay,
it's an area I'm quite interested.
We will share Prof's contact details at the end of the show. Another question has just come in. It says, Prof, I am 52 years old. I can have an erection for several minutes, but when I have the urge to have sex, and let's see. I think what he's trying to say is he can have an erection for a certain period of time, but when it comes to actual penetration, actually having sex with his wife, within seconds he says he ejaculates and he can't get it up again. What might be the cause?
Okay, so how does the system work? By our observations and analysis, we know that if you get an erection intravaginally, it takes about 6 minutes and beyond to ejaculate. So we say that intravaginally, you are allowed to stay for about 6 minutes before ejaculate. Anything less than that, we call that as premature ejaculation. Yeah.
Did you say 6 minutes?
Well, that's what we allow.
Wow,
I mean,
okay.
this men's talk, the women will be upset with that, but for men's purposes, we would work with what we have defined.
I was just going to say, Doc, you need a disclaimer on that one.
I get you. Yeah. So that is it. So if it's less than 6 minutes, they will say premature ejaculation. Okay?
Right.
Especially if the erections are strong enough. Because one of the commonest causes, or the most common cause of premature ejaculation, is not having an erection that is strong enough. In other words, the man loses the ability to judge what is happening if he's not strong enough. And so before you could say, Jack, you are not in control. So the first thing is to really analyze the erectile dysfunction, and sometimes we even score it to see whether the erection is good enough or is weak. If the erection is weak, then once we try and improve the erection, or once you exercise and get the erections well, then you realize that all this issue about the premature will disappear. But there are a few things also that can affect premature ejaculation. One is infections around the area. A prostate infection, testis infection, infection in the urine, all of these can predispose to a premature ejaculation. Sometimes lifestyle, smoking, alcohol, it can all, it makes you lose your sense of direction, your sense of control, and that can be an issue. So these are the things that we want to look at, and then deal with it. So, but there are ways of dealing with it. And there are very, very effective medications for dealing with it. So, I think you should just talk to a urologist or any doctor at all. They are effective medications, and most of the medications, sometimes you even need to take it just once a week, and it's enough to deal with it. They are not primary medications for that, but then they are medications for other things, and we found out that they do good work on that one. And there are some that are even branded. They call it long ride and other things,
right,
to support it. So we should be able to deal with it. I mean, you should just talk to a doctor, and we'll get it prolonged.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, Doc. I mean, for the past 45 minutes, the discussion has been around the whole subject of more or less people's with regards to the quality of sex and problems with childbirth, as well as the whole subject of erections and all that. Another aspect of men's reproductive health is the whole subject of prostate.
That's right.
It has been said that prostate sometimes is a silent killer because by the time you sometimes realize what's going on, it's too late. When it comes to the whole subject of prostate and the actual prostate cancer, really is what the issue is about. What are some of the causes, and what can men do to minimize or sometimes even prevent prostate cancer from developing?
Okay, so I think there are a few things that we need to put clear on prostate cancer, since I had the opportunity to be online. The first thing we want to say is that it's a very common cancer, as we said.
Right.
For us in Africa, 1 in 5, 1 in 6 men may develop prostate cancer in their lifestyle. Worldwide, we say 1 in 8, 1 in 9 men would develop prostate cancer. So that's the first thing. The second point I want to put on record is that out of the 1 in 5 that develop prostate cancer, it's only 1 in 6 of these men that will die from the prostate cancer. In other words, prostate cancer is not a death sentence at all. It can be managed. 6 men get prostate cancer, probably only one who may maybe pass, away from that.
Yeah, but that's subject to early detection, right?
Yeah, that's subject to early detection. I agree. That's subject to early detection. So that's what we say. The second thing I want to put on record is that the treatment for prostate cancer have side effects, have effect on the quality of life of the man. So even though we are diagnosing the disease and trying to treat it, we are also careful not to overdiagnose. Otherwise, then we subject people to the treatments and all of its complications beyond the time. In other words, probably he may need treatment at the age of 59, and yet we have started treating at the age of 50, and leaving him 9 years with all the challenges and all the consultations that he needs to go through. So these are what we want to see. Definitely, with all of the challenges around, yes, prevention is important. How do we get prostate cancer? Probably there are three things that I would say are almost not preventable. One is that being an African is a risk factor. So that is an issue.
Prof, before you even go further, can you explain why it is that prostate cancer is more prevalent in African men than, for example, Europeans?
Okay. So there are two things that we've identified. One is that we are harboring a gene that in itself predisposes us to the cancer. In other words, it's a gene that, or let's say abnormality of a gene, let's put it this way, that makes whatever travels and promotes prostate cancer formation goes faster. So when we as Africans develop prostate cancer, it tends to be aggressive and it tends to cause much difficulties for us. The second thing is that prostate cancer is driven by testosterone, which is the male hormone.
Right.
And we Africans have higher testosterone than every other race.
Really?
That's why we do the 100 meters, the 200 meters.
World champions.
We all know, and they can't vote for slave trade because we are strong.
Right.
And that is it. So our strength is also our downfall when it comes to prostate cancer.
Right.
Because what keeps us strong is what drives the prostate cancer. So these are the two things that drives us.
Right.
The next risk factor is family history.
Okay.
And it's important to know what caused the demise of a brother, a cousin, or a father. If it's a prostate cancer, then that puts you at risk. And of course, we are talking about the testosterone. And so that is the issue. Then we talk about smoking. So you're an African, you've got a family history, and you smoke. That is very deadly life to lead. So smoking probably is something that you want to avoid if you want to prevent it. And we talk about the exercise. The exercise is extremely important for us because somehow, even though we are saying that testosterone is important, it's a balance between testosterone and estrogen. If you are making too much estrogen from your testosterone, that also predisposes you to the prostate cancer. So we realize that obesity and high fat diet can also be something at risk. So keep checking the prostate, what's called PSA, because you're an African. Avoid fatty diet as much as possible.
PSA, this is the specific antigen.
Yes.
Okay, and that's a regular blood test, right?
Regular blood test.
Okay.
We need to do that.
And how often would you say men should do that? Once a year?
Once a year is fine. Theoretically, we say once every 2 years.
Okay.
Yes. If your PSA is less than 2 or less, then once in every 2 years is fine.
Right.
If it's more than 2, between 2 and 4, maybe once every year.
Okay. And as far as the PSA is concerned, at what level do you consider that, hang on, this is dangerous, we need intervention? What PSA level?
Yeah, we continue to use 4.
Right.
So anything above 4 is a concern
to
look at it. Between 4 and 10, we may have a few discussions.
Right.
Definitely above 10 is much concern.
Okay.
So less than 4, unlikely we may have a concern. Of course, we may examine the prostate to be sure everything is fine with it. Above 10, no discussion.
Right.
Between 4 and 10, there's room for discussion.
There's room for discussion. Okay. So the message there is regular checks, and obviously having good consultations with your doctor to make sure that your reproductive health is where it should be. Doc, I have a question in here that's come in. I think I know what the answer is going to be, but it's quite an interesting question. It says, "Good morning. Please, I have a little boy who is turning 7 next month, and he's often up and hard. Is this normal?" In other words, the 7-year-old boy is having erections at that age.
So as we explained, in that early age of life, there's a surge in the testosterone level.
Right.
And so you can have that. So it's not strange at all. So between that age, probably 3 to 6 years, you have a surge, and then between 6 and 9, 10, it comes down, slow rise, and then there's a surge again.
Right.
But in our environment, one of the concerns about erection is people who have got sickle cell disease, what we call priapism, where the penis comes up because of dehydration and because you are a sickler. So even though I've said that it's natural to expect that in that age, I think it's good for them to approach a doctor just to at least inquire about whether he's not a sickle cell disease, AS, probably SC or SS. So we still need to find out whether there's what we call immunoglobulinopathy. There's no abnormality with the blood system. Because blood must flow. And if the blood gets clogged within the system, then it may stay hard because the blood is not flowing adequately. So generally, I think there's no harm. But it's good to just talk to a doctor.
Talk to a doctor.
To exclude a sickle cell or hemoglobinopathy, and then we are good to go.
Right. Another question is coming. It says, "Good morning, Prof. Please, are energy drinks generally good for men?" So this is the Red Bulls and all that. If so, why?
If you give me a bottle of any energy drink, I want to turn it and look at the contents.
Okay.
If the contents is the glycogens and the sugars, then no problem.
Right.
You will break it up, even if it is a lot, because the liver will break it up. But if it contains steroids, whichever form, anything diol, anything triol, then it's a dangerous one.
Right.
Dangerous for the testes, dangerous for prostate. So energy drink, I would say, good, but turn it around. Anything that is in there with a diol, a triol, a straol, please, is dangerous because it contains anabolic steroids.
Right.
And that is not good for your reproductive health and it's not good for your prostate.
Right. Okay. We're going to take a short commercial interlude, and then when we come back, we'll discuss the whole subject of stones in various parts of the urinary tract system. So please stay tuned on Joy 99.7. We'll be back in just a moment.
Hello, Ohima. Eti saying.
Ayo.
Na edahin.
Me kwatade.
Edi bensa.
Krachi. Obesuja na se obehwemkwem.
Na se jane de wo so ayeden kwan de obehwem kakra.
Anyway, me kope vitamin B de ajojo makoma.
What a coincidence. Me say no na me koto, eno na me no.
Hey bra, we de wo boa.
Oh, I want to minti ntwa wontro.
Sawara.
Ha, Vitamilk no emu de he pa na we ni je ho.
Me pe Vitamilk banana any choco because I'm black and proud.
Hey, interesting. Me de me a regular guy oh. So wow.
When you kapao.
So wow. I can see we have something in common. Ohima, yanko ni yanko try a Vitamilk connection. Wo de bo me kana metia. Anye bia se kwan down.
E kwan be.
Aha, na muni brebi. Vitamilk di foforo bia be kambusua ne ho ye friend of Vitamilk strawberry. Vitamilk feels good anywhere anytime. This advert is FDA approved.
Welcome to Joy 99.7. You're tuned into Home Affairs. We're discussing the whole subject of men's reproductive health. Before we went on to the commercial interlude, we had a number of questions on the whole issue of sex and reproductive systems and all that. Prof, before we go on to the subject of stones, I have a question that's come in from someone. It says, how often should a man in his early 40s have sex for there not to be a buildup of blue balls or increased chances of prostate cancer due to less ejaculations?
It's quite an interesting question and a difficult one as that. we will say that, as we explained, for the blue balls, depends on stimulation and activity. So if you don't stimulate yourself, then probably you may go a few more days without necessarily getting the blue balls. And when we talk about sex, so far as the man is concerned, please remember the other partner as well. So even though we give information, or maybe this frequency of sexual activity, we are put in context. I remember one woman came to me and said, "Now warn my husband for me." I said, "What's the issue?" He said, "He's using me to treat his to treat his prostate." In other words, he needed to protest. So that's what we say. I mean, our books will say that probably in excess of 20 ejaculations a month could protect you against prostate cancer. But definitely, practically, that can be difficult. So as often as it works, definitely for reproduction, we know that 3 times a week is what you need to be able to father a child effectively. So if you're looking for children, then what we know is that 3 times a week ensures that your wife will get pregnant. Anything less than that may interfere with achieving pregnancy. That we
three times a week.
Sure.
Okay, Doc. Then how do you reconcile what you've just said with the fact that it is reported, or it is well known that once a man ejaculates, it takes a while for the sperms to rebuild themselves and get back to the quantities and qualities and all that. How true is that assertion? The fact that some say that, okay, if a man ejaculates a lot, virtually he's emptying the scrotum, the testis, and therefore the quality of the sperm, that whatever is left, is much less. How do you reconcile that with having sex three times a week?
Yeah. So how does the system work? The whole tubular system or sperm storage system can support 20 ejaculations before it runs dry.
Wow.
That is how much it is. So if there's anything for instance, if we do a vasectomy and we are waiting for you to clear the downstream,
sure,
we will tell you that it's either 3 months when the body comes to remove everything that is there, or 20 ejaculations, the system is empty.
Right.
So the body continues to build up. Practically, we know that after first ejaculation, second ejaculation, by third ejaculation, it's difficult to get the sperms.
Right.
Because they have to, quote, draw them deep from the well before it can come.
Sure.
But that doesn't mean they are there.
Okay.
So leaving a day or two will make whatever is upstream flow to the dam for it to be able to use. So to empty the sperms completely is 20 ejaculations.
Right.
And that's how much is in there. And by the time you are done with the first week, the body has filled up.
Okay.
If your nutrition is good,
I was just going to say,
that's why your exercise is good, you are drinking a bit of water, and we say that sometimes things that the tiger nuts, the coca oats, things that contain zinc, they are actually naturally good,
right,
to support such a volume production.
So in reality, what you're saying is, if you don't have a good, healthy diet, it has an impact on your ability to regenerate or reproduce your sperms as well as the quality.
Exactly. You will run dry.
Right.
You will run dry.
Okay. Right. Doc, a question has just come in. It says, I guess in some way we've just answered the question. But someone has sent a message and says, what can a man do to increase sperm effectiveness to cause pregnancy?
Yeah. So eat well.
Right.
Drink water well. Exercise. For now, avoid the smoking, avoid the alcohol, avoid marijuana. Watch your underwears well, a single boxer shorts, cold baths, and then at least 3 times of sexual activity in a week. It should work fine.
Right. Okay, Doc. I think we've touched on this subject, but let me just read the question from this listener, and you can address it as you see fit. It says, "Good morning. What's the best way out for a patient who has one of his kidneys enlarged with loss of normal?" I think we've answered this. I think we have addressed this question, so I don't know why it's still showing up here. Let's see what else we've got. Somebody has just sent in a message, and he's let's see, what is he saying? He says, "Good morning, Joy FM. I always experience serious itches around my penile region, i.e. the male organ. I also have weak sexual activity. What should I do?" I'm not sure whether...
Probably we will address the itching. I think the weak sexual activity we have done. So, itching means that there is something that you are reacting to. So some people react to condoms, especially the latest ones.
Right.
So they can age because they are reacting to the condom on the latest. So if you're someone who's using a condom as a form of contraceptive, they may want to avoid it.
Right.
Some people age because they are keeping the place too warm. So again, it's too sweaty. So watch your underwears. That can be helpful. Now, some people age because they are allergic to some of the chemicals in the underwear and the boxer shorts.
Really?
So if you are using a colored underwear or boxer shorts, you may be leaking some of the dyes in those clothes and you are reacting to them. So one of the good advice we may ask for you to try is to change your underwears to the white ones that have no ink, anything at all, dye in them.
Yeah, but Prof, I'm not so sure. Well, what the person who sent in the question, what he hasn't explained is whether the H is an internal H or whether it's an external H.
That's right.
So,
okay.
What you're talking about in terms of the clothes is an external H, right? Not an internal.
No, which tends to be quite common.
Right.
Yeah, the common. Yeah. If it's the internal H, then we may look at it as an infection.
Something like an STD.
Yes, or sometimes a normal, you call it E. coli. Sometimes it's just a normal infection, not necessarily an STD, but bacteria find themselves in the wrong place.
Right.
And we deal with that. So if it's internal, we will look for infection at the cause. Yes.
Right. Okay.
But if it's external, then you are allergic, you are reacting to something.
Reacting to something. Okay. Doc, now let's move on to the whole subject of stones. Okay. Stones, as we know, we've all heard the term kidney stones, different types of stones. And some people actually sometimes have the stones trying to find their way through the urinary tract, and sometimes it leads to blockages.
That's right.
In terms of trying to maintain good reproductive health for men, how does the kidney produce stones, and how do you guys as urologists treat this when it does occur in the kidneys?
Okay, good. So the urine itself is a solution.
Right.
It's like having prepared, putting sugar or salt in water. So it's a solution. So when you talk about kidney stones, it's actually the particles in the urine that have come up to become bigger than they are supposed to be. In other words, they are supposed to be dissolved in the urine.
Right.
But when they are becoming like a particle, like you see in the making salt out of the sea, then that forms the stone. So they are not coming from anywhere at all. They are part of the urinary system. Of course, they drop in the urinary system because of the diet we eat. So
right.
Calcium in the diet, oxalates which are from protein and other chocolate and other vegetables in the diet, they drop in there and they form a stone. Sometimes the quantities in there are too much. Sometimes the quantity is okay, but you are not drinking enough. So then they crystallize out and form a stone.
Okay, Prof. So in other words, what you are saying is, when they do form, if we're not drinking enough, we are not forcing the kidneys to get them out of the system. Is that what it is?
That is another way of treating. Forming itself requires you to keep it dissolved.
Right.
If you're not drinking enough, they are not going to stay dissolved. They will come out.
Okay.
And so we form the stones because we are not dissolving the compounds, we are not drinking enough water, and they are coming out as crystals.
Right.
Good. But if you have formed the stone and the stone is small, then drinking water can help push them down.
Right.
So it works in both ways. Either you are not drinking enough and so you are forming the stone, or as part of our treatment, we may recommend that you drink enough. About 2.5 liters a day of water can be helpful to do that. Then sometimes we also develop the stone because we are developing infection in the kidney system. So we do infection in the kidneys, infection in the tubes, then you form the stone. And other times there's a bit of a blockage already, and because of the urine not driving out, not stays, is not moving out, you form a stone. I always say that if you urinate into a chamber pot and leave it for 3 days, when you go to decant it, you realize that there are some whitish things under. That is the stone forming.
Right.
Because they have stayed there a long time and they are sedimenting. So that's how stones are formed. So in our advice to prevent a stone, we ask you to drink water. If you identify that it's because probably too much protein, we ask you to watch your protein intake. If there's some other thing you are taking that is causing that one, we ask you to be able to deal with them. So that's how we do that. If there's an infection, we try to treat the infection as well.
Right.
Once you have formed the stone, we decide how big is this stone and what is it.
Right.
For a kidney stone, if the stone is less than 5 millimeters and is not blocking anything at all, so that we use the word sub-centimeter stone, we may leave it alone. With time, it may drop off without even realizing it.
Okay.
Of course, we may ask you to drink a bit more water and everything else. So we say that not every stone that we go to break it, we leave it alone.
Right.
If the stone is blocking the system because it's big, normally a centimeter or 8 centimeter is blocking it, then it start giving you undue pain. It start blocking and affecting the kidneys. Then we need to go and get the stone out.
Right.
And how do we do that? We can use waves from outside, what we call shock waves, and that can be able to break it.
So is that ultrasound?
Yes, we call it yes. So it's a kind of ultrasound, kind of other waves.
Right.
We call it the electromagnetic wave. So we call it the ESWL or shock wave to break that. We can also decide that let's take a tube up the urinary system, like the plumbers will do. Let's take it up there and use a laser to break the stone. So that can also be done. What we call ureteroscopy, laser, and fragmentation the stone. We can also decide that the stone is too big. If we go there and use a laser, it may take us 8 hours. And that is not safe for you because we do these things under anesthesia.
Yeah.
So we can then make a puncture into the kidney and within a relatively shorter time, instead of 8 hours, going down maybe 1.5 hours through the skin and break it and pick it up. So the location of the stone is important. The size of the stone is important. Of course, we also get further information like how hard the stone is, and that informs the way we do. So these are the options that we have. Do nothing as you drink water, or find out why you're forming the stone and try to prevent it. Sometimes allopurinol and other things to prevent it because it's from protein. Use the shock wave because it's small, it can easily come out and there's no blockage. Or we use the laser from inside you and break it. Or we do a puncture and use the laser or other mechanisms like ultrasound or mechanical and then break it.
Right.
That's how we do it.
I have another one here where it says 18 months ago I had a stone removed from my urinary tract. According to the doctors, the stone was about 11 millimeters. As a result, I was put under anesthesia through an injection through the lower back, which numbed the bottom half of my body. And then the doctors used a tube through my penis and then through into the urinary tract and then broke the stones.
Yes.
Prof, can you give me some information as to whether the procedure that was used would have eliminated the stones totally, and could they reoccur in that region because the stone was found close to my bladder?
Okay. So what he had described is a perfect description of the use of the laser for these purposes. So we take a tube through the urinary system without cutting you, follow the little tubes to where it is blocked, and with the laser, we break it. The laser can break it completely.
Right.
Completely. And we have got what we call a basket that allows us that even the little fragments that are left, we can be able to use it to retrieve it.
Right.
So it can break it completely. Now, one of the important caveats of stone disease is that if you form a stone, you are likely to form it again.
Over what period?
It varies. Depends on the lifestyle. 3 years, 6 years, you form a stone again. So there's so much, a stone was removed 2018 and we are in 2024. 6 years down the line, another stone has come.
Right.
So preventing of stone is a very important adjunct to what we do. Drink more water, at least 2.5 liters a day is important thing that we do.
So is that why sometimes once you've done that type of procedure, you ask the patient to put in potassium citrate into the water?
So you can do that if the stone is, we have got some stones, acid and base, so we can start to do that. If per the chemistry of the urine, we think that is promoting the stone, then we can change the chemistry of the urine by putting the potassium citrate in there, and changing the acidity.
You just touched on my next question. What does adding potassium citrate to drinking water do as far as preventing stones?
Okay, so there are different types of stones. You have got what called a uric acid stone,
right, and
that tends to form in acidic urine.
Okay,
urine is normally supposed to be acidic, and it promotes that uric acid stone. So if you realize that you are forming uric acid stone, then you may decide to alkalinize the urine a bit, so that once the uric acid crystals forming there, they dissolve away and happen. So it depends on the type of stone. If you decide that you are going to use a bit of citrate into it, then we have established that it is a uric acid stone. And one of the things we do is that whether we use the laser, we do any fragmentation, we try to retrieve a little bit of the stone and take it for analysis so to tell what the content is. If you are not able to retrieve the stone, because sometimes the lasers can virtually shatter everything into a powder, Then we can do blood tests to
Right.
analyze the levels of the uric acid, calcium, and that can give us an idea what kind of stone we have formed. So
Right.
based on that and based on the urine analysis, we may decide that we are dropping something in there to make the urine a bit more basic.
Right.
That's right.
Guys, the messages are still coming in. Another one says, I was involved in an accident and later I had a urethra stricture. I just underwent a uretroplasty through a uroplasty procedure. How long should I be in the 2 catheters before they are removed? After taking off the catheters, how long will it be before you can resume having sex?
So he had a road traffic accident and there was a damage to the tube
Right.
that then blocked, and so we are trying to solve it. It's quite, unfortunately, a very difficult surgery and a very difficult to predict the outcomes because not only is the tube injured, but sometimes the blood supply to the tube also get affected.
Right.
And the healing requires a good blood supply, good nutrition. So it's a difficult question to answer.
Right.
One of the things that the surgeons normally would have discussed with him is what they anticipate will be how long the tube must be in. It can vary from 1 week to as long as 6 weeks, depending on our judgment on how blood is flowing to the area and how long you take to heal. So I think that discussion will depend on the surgeon.
Right.
Sometimes, even before we remove the tube, if we are not sure whether there's healing, because there must be healing before the tube comes out. The tube is just a scaffold allowing the whether if for example you're doing a ceiling in a building to allow the ceiling to cure and be strong so that when you move the bamboo it doesn't drop down.
Sure.
And that's what the catheter is doing. So before you move the catheter, you must make sure that the whole tube has reformed itself and is strong, and it varies. Sometimes if you have doubt, we put a dye or call a contrast around the tube to see whether there's any leakage.
Leakages. Right.
We call it pericatheter, uretrogram. If there's a leakage, we leave the catheter in. So I would say that he must be very patient with his doctors about how long the catheter must be in.
Right.
They may do a few maneuvers to ascertain whether the catheter must come out or not. Generally, most people by 6 weeks, the catheter is out.
Right. Do you sometimes, as with this procedure, with this guy's issue that he's going through, do you sometimes have to put in a stent as a permanent way of keeping the tubes open?
It can, just that unfortunately a lot more complication with it.
Right.
Infections, it can move. We put in a tube and it has moved to the rectum and other places.
Right.
So it is. Do I say that when we start to do that, then we have come to a point to say that probably it's difficult to treat. So it's a palliative, or how do you say the word? It's virtually a difficult one. Yeah. But I sympathize with him. And he must be patient with his doctors.
Just be patient.
Because it doesn't depend only on the skill of the doctor.
Right.
But the impact and the severity of the accident can make things very, very successful, or we struggle a bit. And I sympathize with him and the urologists who are handling him. It
Right.
can be challenging.
Right. So it's just a question of being patient.
Patient.
And
very,
of
very
course,
patient.
pray
And
about it.
Pray
Pray
along.
about it.
And pray along.
I have one here which is to do with technology. And it says here, I often hear that men shouldn't put their phones in their pockets for the sake of their reproductive health. Yeah. Doc, is this true?
So, yes and no. I mean, radiation is one of the things that has come to stay with us.
Right.
I mean, we have the radiation, the Bluetooth, the laptops, yeah.
It's a question of levels, right?
Ozone. So it's really challenging. In fact, most studies have realized that the sperm levels and qualities of men are getting lower worldwide.
Right.
And some of these things. So I think the more natural you are, the better we are with this reproductive system. So I'll say that yes and no. Definitely, if you want to have children, you may want to avoid hot baths. You want to avoid these phones in your pocket. You don't get a mask. You don't rent a house where there's a mask around you for a telecommunication. I mean, you have to make your choices.
Sure.
We don't have a definite answer, but definitely these are waves. And sperms are alive. They are like tadpoles, and they respond. Either they are attracted to it or they are repelled by it. And so it's a good advice to avoid these things. Yeah, and we will not argue with anybody who advises that please keep away. They are very, very live tadpoles, and they respond.
Right. Okay. We'll be back shortly. Now, the joy of every parent is to see their children cheerful and hearty. To achieve this desire, every parent needs to ensure that their children are given nutritious foods that have essential nutrients and multivitamins which can promote their welfare. One of such nutritious beverages is Vitamilk soy milk drink. Vitamilk soy milk drink is made from natural soya beans, which is a good source of plant protein, vitamin B1 and B2. Vitamilk has no artificial coloring, no artificial flavorings, and no preservatives. For over 20 years in Ghana, Vitamilk soy milk has been consistent with its product quality, sumptuous taste, and its nutritional benefits. Choose Vitamilk Charm for your children because it has plant proteins and it is nutritious, amazingly delicious, and satisfying. Vitamilk also comes in its regular soy milk drink, Vitamilk Energy, the multi-cereal with no caffeine, Vitamilk Choco, Vitamilk Banana, as well as Strawberry, Vitamilk 250ml and Vitamilk 1 liter Tetra Packs. Vitamilk is indeed a nutritious beverage that feels good anywhere, anytime. Right, Doc, we're fast coming to the end of the show, but the questions keep coming through. I have one in here that says, my son will be 18 in December. He weighs 130 kilos. He's had weight issues since COVID when we were all indoors. His penis is small. I thought it would change as he grew up. When I took him to see the pediatrician when he was 15, I was told it was more than the 1.5 centimeter minimum, so I shouldn't be alarmed. Doc, should I still be alarmed?
I mean, 130 kilograms is quite huge.
Yeah, it's quite heavy.
Which means that there's a lot of fat that is breaking testosterone.
Right.
Probably he may need an external testosterone injections to support it. Unfortunately, at this age, if he's ahead 38,
he's 18.
We still can give it a try. I think the injections we can give to support that. Sometimes we give testosterone injections itself. At 18, we can do that because he has, in quote, reached his full potential as far as his height is concerned.
Right.
Normally, we don't want to give testosterone before you get your full height because it can make you very short. But there are other compounds that are available in the country.
Right.
Now, when you give it, will naturally stimulate testosterone production. So I think you should get to your urologist, and then you should just tell them that you want to boost his testosterone. And we have probably not the injection testosterone, but there are a few things called beta ECG. They are available. We can boost the testosterone. It's time for testosterone injections.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, we're fast approaching the end of the show. So, Doc, I'm going to give you the last 30 seconds or minute or so to just summarize and just give us some general advice as to what you think we should be doing as far as men's reproductive health is concerned.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I think it's been quite an interactive session, and all the questions have been very, very relevant. And thank all those who took part in it. We will say that please keep things as natural as possible. The exercise, a bit of water, as much as possible. Please do that. And then after 40 years, definitely after 50 years, please do routine checks, including the PSA for the prostate, your BP. Everything else is important. And keep exercising. And remember that you are getting old.
Thank you very much, Doc. So that was Professor Kyei, who's a urologist at Kolebu Teaching Hospital. Thank you so much for coming into the studio and sharing your experience and advice to us. What's coming up next? Of course, it's the Weekend City Show with Kofi Hayford. He's coming up very, very shortly. And I'll be back on your radio this evening at 6 p.m. as I bring you the tribute to the late Quincy Jones on Flashback. So until then, have a great week, and we will surely be with you for another edition of Home Affairs next week. Thank you, and good morning.
The other day, I visited Kweku at his spunky new office to congratulate him on opening his business. And man, was I impressed. The business is just moving quick. The sales, customers, everything is just working seamlessly. The secret? He said,